Our next speaker is from the National Competitiveness Commission, and he's the Executive Director, Mr. Phiri, and he's going to be giving us our keynote address for the program.
Thank you so much, Program Director. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe just to briefly tell you, maybe most of you don't know what NCC is. We are a statutory body that was created in 2017 for the purpose of enhancing Zimbabwe's competitiveness. And our work definitely looks at the regulations that are impeding on businesses' performance and also identifying opportunities in Zimbabwe where we can be able to structure some programs that can enhance competitiveness in Zimbabwe. And one of our main work that we are currently doing is we're trying to look at the regulatory environment. As such, there is a tool that is coming up called the Regulatory Impact Assessment. With that being said, I want to write on all protocols and say all protocols observed. It gives me pleasure to and great honor to welcome you all to this Import-Exports seminar that has been organized by the People's Own Savings Bank and Zimtrade. The focus of this export seminar, which is export development, financial inclusion, and stakeholder collaboration to shape Zimbabwe's exports, dovetails with the thrust that is currently being undertaken by the government, Vision 2030, the NDS-1, and the National Trade Policy and the National Export Strategy. The National Export Strategy has got a 714 target, which is 7 billion by 2023. I'm not sure whether Smilo and Machuru have managed to achieve that. And also 14 billion by 2030. Currently, the export sector contributes about 60% of Zimbabwe's foreign currency earnings annually ahead of the diaspora remittances, loan proceed, and FDI. It remains the most sustainable source of foreign currency and important driver for economic growth and development. However, of concern is that the country continues to rely on the export of primary products, such as your minerals and agricultural products, which are susceptible to commodity volatility. The level of export diversification in Zimbabwe is limited and value addition is also constrained at the moment. Therefore, beneficiation is something that we are encouraging from the Competitiveness Commission so that we can be competitive with competitor countries and even in the global village. For instance, if you take the statistics, manufactured exports in Zimbabwe contribute about 8%, which is way below our regional competitors, Botswana, South Africa, and Zambia, who have 23% for Botswana and 26% for Namibia and 38% for South Africa. So we have a structural problem there, which we need to address urgently. High transportation costs, regulatory bottlenecks, and all the other issues like your strong USD, which is what we are using currently at the moment, and the use of the USD is growing, is making us less competitive within the global village. We need to really look at what we need to do as business and also as government to ensure that our products remain competitive. But as well as limited access to finance, limited access to cheap instruments where exporters can be able to have incentives to export and grow their business have been identified by various surveys that we have undertaken as one of the limiting factors. Resultantly, export development and promotion strategies aimed at value addition and beneficiation through strengthening of mineral and agricultural value chains, reviewing the legislative environment in Zimbabwe, and the provision of key enablers, therefore, is critical to transform the productive sectors in our country. Development and promotion of exports should revolve around the three pillars of competitiveness. These three pillars are dubbed as compete, connect, and change. The first C, the capacity to compete, represent the static dimension of competitiveness and assesses whether enterprise's current production is efficient and meets market requirements. The second C is the capacity to connect, which looks at the ability of an enterprise to connect to its immediate business environment in terms of linkages and partnerships with suppliers, customers, and other businesses, including academic and research centers. In addition to this, it assesses the enterprise's information and communication technology strategies, which is a crucial aspect in the ability to assess relevant markets. We cannot deny that the global village has become so much digital. So without firms growing the ICT, you will not be able to tap into the opportunities that are there in the global village. The last C is the capacity to change. This represents the dynamic dimension of competitiveness and assesses the capacity of an enterprise to innovate in order to adapt to fast-changing markets. These three C's, which I'll elaborate further, drive the capacity of individual companies to be competitive across the three levels of the economy. First, at your level, firm level. Secondly, at the business ecosystem level. And thirdly, at national level. The only way you can become export competitive is you become first domestically competitive. Because I believe in a formula where exporters must first meet local demand, local quality, and also be able to cover their operating costs or overheads locally. The rest of the excess production should then be used for export. That way, you can enter into international markets competitively. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to compete, the global markets thereby increase export firms to be innovative and find ways of improving business efficiency and productivity. As the country gears itself towards attainment of the set export targets, the micro, medium, and small enterprises must not be overlooked. They contribute about 8.6 billion, about 60% to the GDP. So they form a very crucial aspect in our growth of exports. If you look at the capacity to compete, locally, domestically, you might be looking at the intensity of the rivalry in the industry, the threats of entrance into the market, the bargaining power of buyers. But what is important is that if firms do not innovate and change, they will be overtaken by competition. With the coming in of the African Free Trade Area, I want to urge all manufacturing and productive firms to begin to look at their competitiveness very seriously. Because very soon we will see products that are cheaper than what we are producing locally entering our market. And that will present a serious problem for the viability of our businesses. Given the importance of this, the National Competitiveness Commission embarked on a survey with the International Trade Center and undertook an SMEs competitive survey from December 2022 last year and concluded in May 2023. From the survey, it was revealed that agricultural firms struggle more with logistics costs than manufacturing and service firms. Only 19% of digital technologies for transport and logistics, and this undermines the sector's capacity to compete and also develop their exports and grow their markets. The agricultural sector in Zimbabwe is largely dominated by smallholder farmers, and they continue to be the backbone of the manufacturing sector, especially on the agro business side. This contributes about 11.7% of GDP and 40% to local manufactured exports. Zimbabwe does not operate in a vacuum, ladies and gentlemen. And in this modern day of globalization, there is need to move with global trends and assimilate into global markets. NCC with the World Economic Forum, every year we conduct what you call an executive opinion survey which is then made to produce a number of reports. And one of the reports that came out in 2022 was called the Future of Markets Report. It's a very interesting report that I urge you to get in touch with NCC and go through it, because it identifies future markets and areas where global exports will grow. The report cited things like information technology services, agriculture, and energy sectors as the top 3 markets, which are mostly likely to create new markets in the future. The report further highlights that the forestry, fisheries, energy technologies, and utilities and financial services are some of the top priority sectors globally, where global leaders are actually looking at growing markets in these areas. Manufacturing is there, but not as a priority. So if you get hold of that report, it will give you much detail of where you should be strategizing towards. As the economy strategizes towards export growth, such seminars on export development are very crucial. More efforts should be focused on identifying priority sectors. I have always emphasized that the future of our exports depends on us identifying the sectors where we have comparative advantage. We then build competencies around that area and we launch from there. Because as we sit here in the global village, there are some sectors that are becoming redundant, even including jobs that are becoming redundant. As we move more into artificial intelligence and digitalization of the whole world, we will be left behind if we do not look at the global trends. Ladies and gentlemen, there were some constraints that were identified by the Future of Jobs survey. And I'm glad that POSB and other banks are coming on board to actually assist in export competitiveness and export growth. One of the constraints that was identified was the availability of financing and support from the financial institutions, which is impeding on Zimbabwe's ability to be competitive in the global market. Therefore, we all need to come together, both the private sector, the public sector, and the research institutions to identify strategies that can assist Zimbabwean companies to penetrate in the export market. The last thing I want to talk about is the capacity to change. It is a critical pillar in the development of competitiveness, and it fosters innovation and productivity in firms. If you look at the World Economic Forum report, it is structured on 12 pillars and has got many sub-criteria. One of the areas where Zimbabwe is doing very badly in that report, and has been doing so badly, is the area of innovation, business dynamism. We are ranking as low as 132 in those criteria. And this is not government. This is a ranking of what business and firms are achieving. I would like to say to Aston that on the capacity to change, mixing with capacity to compete. If you were to take a Zimbabwean soccer team to Anfield today with the same coach, same players, give them a month training at Anfield, then you give them a match against Liverpool, what do you think is going to happen? Are they going to win? They're not going to win. The most impactful thing to do is to change the strategy. Even if it means changing the team and the players, then give them the right environment, they will succeed. Changing the environment does not guarantee success, but changing the mindset guarantees success. So as individual firms, we urge you to have the capacity to change. WF report on 2019, the credit to private sector as a percentage of GDP is around 22.4, and we scored very lowly in that. We are waiting for the new scores to see how we are doing in that area. So bankers, please, let's take note of that, because as a country, we continue to do very badly in the competitiveness on the finance pillars. What does this do? It makes the country unattractive. We cannot attract investment. Neither can we attract the right talent or the right support for us to continue to grow as an economy. So everybody is supposed to work together in the delivery of this. As I conclude, I want to give you an analogy of an ants colony. We all know ants. Ants work together in a systematic form. They collaborate to save up for winter and for bad times. And one thing about the ants colony, if it's an ants colony on a tree and elephants are heading towards that tree, the moment they sense that they are ants, they change their course. So I would like to say, we have elephants in the room in Zimbabwe. We all know about them. The only way we can make those elephants in the room for Zimbabwe change course is if we work together as a colony. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phiri, for that insightful presentation looking at competitiveness, which is one of the key issues that a lot of exporters are dealing with, right?